Good morning. When we look at the energy and climate solutions toolbox, we tend to focus on exciting new technologies like high-powered wind turbines and thin-film solar cells or carbon capture and sequestration. Today's hearing is about the less eye-catching but equally important solutions that improve energy efficiency, build better building and appliance standards, energy efficiency resource standards, demand-side management programs, and the host of other policies and technologies that enable us to use energy more intelligently. The Department of Energy estimates that U.S. electricity demand will grow by 30% by 2030. There are two ways to meet this rising demand: megawatts and negawatts. The first approach is familiar to us, simply building more power plants. The second uses efficiency measures to do more with less. It is based on the reality that the cheapest and cleanest power plant is the one we never have to build. Efficiency costs us little as 1/3 per kilowatt hour of the cost of new electricity supply and emits no carbon. Energy efficiency will also play a critical role in avoiding an excessive dash to natural gas, which many fear could damage the competitiveness of U.S. manufacturing. A recent study by McKinsey & Company concluded that in 2030, efficiency measures can cut U.S. global warming pollution by nearly 15% of current levels at a profit. The 10 northeastern states participating in the RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, cap and auction trade system, have found that by auctioning 100% of the pollution allowances and investing the proceeds in efficiency measures, they can achieve their climate goals at virtually no additional cost to consumers. Climate legislation can provide the resources to make efficiency policies work, while efficiency cuts pollution at the lowest possible cost. These solutions help us to work smarter and not harder. Investing in efficiency is not just a cost-effective energy and climate solution. It will also pay major dividends in new jobs and economic growth. America's efficiency industry already produces close to $1 trillion in annual revenues. By putting America in the vanguard of the efficiency revolution, we can create high-quality green jobs at home while exporting high-quality green technology to the world. Unfortunately, increasing America's energy efficiency is not as straightforward as it may seem. As we will hear from our witnesses, many efficiency improvements can already be achieved today at a profit, but are not being implemented because of market barriers and market failures. For this reason, simply putting a price on carbon is not enough. Focused policies must be used to reward efficiency and to eliminate perverse incentives like those that shackle utilities' profits with the amount of electricity they sell. Progressive states, along with innovative companies like Dow, Johnson Controls, and National Grid, have taken the lead in tackling these challenges. We are grateful to have representatives of these governments and business leaders on our witness panel today. They can help show us the way forward. As Congress considers climate legislation, it will be critical to include policies that make energy efficiency our first fuel. Efficiency provides a vast zero-carbon energy supply that can be deployed right now with current technologies at a net savings. If we are to cut global warming pollution as quickly and as deeply as the science says it must, it is imperative that climate legislation be designed to capture efficiency gains immediately. By making the potential of energy efficiency a reality, we can save the planet while simultaneously saving consumers money, spurring job growth, and meeting our nation's rising energy demand at the lowest possible cost. NBA coach Pat Riley once said, "A particular shot or way of moving the ball can be a player's personal signature, but efficiency of performance is what wins the game for the team." If we are going to beat this energy, climate, and economic challenge, aggressively increasing America's energy efficiency may be at the center of our game plan. That completes the opening statement of the Chair. Now turn and recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Upton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our hearing today is an important one. The environmental and economic benefits of energy efficiency are truly significant. Before I begin, I'd like to submit a letter from Pilkington, North America. For the record, Pilkington is a leading U.S. manufacturer of glass, and they have a facility in my district. Pilkington makes some very interesting points about the nature of energy efficiency. For example, certain building products like windows that are most efficient in southern states are not nearly as efficient in northern states. In the warm weather states of the South, windows that block solar heat are the most energy efficient. However, in the cold weather states of the North, with more heating days than cooling days, such as Massachusetts and Michigan, windows with a higher solar heat gain are more efficient. The right type of window on a cold winter day in Boston or Detroit or Chicago can take in heat from the sun, thus reducing utility bills and saving energy. There was a tax provision in the stimulus bill that promotes windows that are designed primarily for warmer climates. The tax credit is only available for windows that block over 70% of solar heat. According to a website developed jointly by the Center for Sustainable Building Research, Alliance to Save Energy, and Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, lower solar heat gains are best for southern climates. The site also recommends for northern states to reduce heating, select the highest solar heat gain you can find so that winter solar gains can offset a portion of the heating energy need. Pilkington said this about the tax provisions that favor southern windows. Quote, "It will result in northern homes using glass that blocks 70% of the sun's free and renewable solar energy from entering the home. That, in turn, will result in unnecessary burning of additional fossil fuels to heat these homes." End quote. That means higher utility bills in northern states and more greenhouse gas emissions. We must recognize regional differences. When it comes to energy efficiency in buildings, one size fits all doesn't always work. In fact, as we see in the window example, it could actually have the opposite effect. I have long been an advocate in spurring efficient technologies into the marketplace. I was proud to work with my colleague, Mrs. Harmon, in passing legislation that improved efficiency standards of the light bulbs. Across the nation, the environmental and economic benefits of more efficient bulbs will, in fact, be substantial. Our work on light bulbs wasn't an arbitrary mandate. We didn't just pick a standard out of the air or look for a catchy sounding standard like 25 by 2025, not based on science or feasibility. Instead, we worked with the industry and environmental groups to come up with a standard that made sense and doable, a standard that can be met by bulbs manufactured in this country, a standard that will include bulbs without any hazardous ingredients such as mercury. If done correctly, increasing the energy efficiency standards can reduce energy costs for consumers, help the environment, and have a positive economic impact. These benefits can be gained without a cap-and-trade program. The question is, what should the federal government's role be? Well-intentioned, it is possible for the government to get it wrong and push policies that will have a detrimental impact on the environmental and pocketbook. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington State, Mr. Inslee.
Thank you. I just want to make 2 points. One, we have started last Tuesday, down the efficiency road when President Obama signed the economic recovery bill. And I think over the long term, one of the most productive things in that bill will be the provisions that required governors to certify that they would move towards more efficient building standards of about 30% improvements and decoupling, which will unleash great economic resources for the efficiency industry. It was a small, quiet thing that was little noted on, but I think will unleash tremendous assets for the efficiency industry. Number two, I want to make the point that the efficiency industry is an industry. People think of avoiding waste as something as a void or a vacuum. In fact, it's a tremendous profit and job creation center. And I just want to note, in my little neck of the woods up in Seattle, some companies that are doing right now, just so people know it's not a pipe dream. We've got the Magna Drive company in Bellevue, Washington, manufacturing electrical transmission services that reduces the electrical needs of generators by about 30%. Seattle Steam that does cogen electrical heating that essentially almost doubles the efficiency of a heating plant. McKinstry, which is the world's leading company to help corporations reduce their efficiency, reduce their electrical usage, particularly on server farms. Boeing, which is making the world's most energy efficient jetliner, 20% more energy efficient than any other competitive jetliner. The Verdium company, which is selling software which significantly reduces a corporation's use of energy in the computer industry. I point these out because one of the largest job creation engines we have in the United States is the efficiency industry, and we intend to continue to adopt policies to help them grow. Thank you.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Shimkus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank my ranking member for bringing up that provision on Windows. I'm surprised I didn't read it. I didn't have enough time to read the bill. But had I read the bill, I might have seen
another
the window
extra
issue.
hour on because of daylight savings in just a couple of weeks.
But let me thank the chairman on bringing up this issue on efficiencies. And excuse me if I don't share in the enthusiasm, because for many, many years we've been talking about efficiency gains in the generation of electricity. And we have a federal policy that does just the opposite. And it's one that we've debated here for 12 years, and it's the issue of new source review. And take a power generating plant. I don't care if it's pulverized coal, I don't care if it's gasification. Say that we have a new generator that can generate for the same amount of power output, double the amount of electricity. Now, I would say many of us would say that that is an efficiency gain that should be noted, not punished, not penalized. But what occurs under new source review is that the entire air permitting process has to revolve itself, which is a disincentive. If the boiler's the same, if the emissions the same, if they're meeting air quality standards at the same time, and there's no change, but you're going to double the amount of output, that's what we're talking about in efficiency gains. However, since I've been here for 12 years, we continue to provide a disincentive in the new source review debate. And you'll hear the claims it promotes dirty air. Especially if it's in a generator debate, it does no such thing. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope you work with me in reforming the permitting process and streamlining this procedures by which, if we have the same emission standards, whatever they are, and if we're going to have increased efficiency and electricity gains, that we change this capricious new source review program. And I yield back my time.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Butterfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for convening this hearing today, and thank the witnesses for coming forward with your testimonies. Mr. Chairman, you told us a few weeks ago that you were serious about moving this debate along, and you're absolutely right, and today is evidence that we are ready to move boldly with this initiative. With 40% of the U.S. energy consumption coming from commercial and residential buildings, raising efficiency and greening of our buildings provides a clear path toward lowering our emissions in a relatively low-cost yet highly scalable capacity. In the Southeast, where I'm from, making strides in energy efficiency represents the most readily available means of cutting greenhouse gas emissions. North Carolina, my state, currently has a renewable energy standard, which is helping to drive innovation and deployment of new renewable technologies. However, we remain at a regional disadvantage for access to much of the existing renewable energy options. As such, it is incumbent upon us that we develop policies that place a value on the reduction of greenhouse gases, regardless of the means of achieving that goal. This means focusing on a broad approach, including renewables as well as energy efficiency. I want to comment briefly on a project in my hometown of Wilson, North Carolina, that is saving energy and reducing emissions using effective design and engineering changes. Wilson Community College recently constructed a LEED building, which is a certified green building, as a student center on the campus. I spoke for this dedication, and what I saw exceeded my expectations. We must invest in more green buildings. Studies using DOE assistance indicate that this building will use 50 to 60% less energy than a normal new building of similar size built to existing codes. The center's efficiency improvements will pay for themselves 10 times over in energy savings during the building's lifetime. Energy efficiency is an issue, Mr. Chairman, that is and should be universally supported. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Walden.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this hearing. We also have a communications hearing that's going to take place starting at 10, so I'll apologize to the witness ahead of time. I'll be bouncing back and forth between the two. As I was reading through the testimony in preparation for this hearing, I was struck by the Johnson Controls testimony on the part about how energy efficiency is good for consumers and business, and I believe it is. And I come from a state that has pioneered energy efficiency and conservation. We believe in it strongly. And in the testimony, sir, Mr. Campbell says energy prices are escalating and would continue to rise with a price on carbon. Energy efficiency will reduce the impact of climate policies on consumers' energy bills. It will lower energy spending for American businesses large and small, enabling them to better compete in the global economy. Smarter, more efficient buildings not only have lower utility bills, but also improve health, safety, and comfort. I concur with all of that, except that this committee just passed something that none of us, at least those on the Republican side, didn't get a chance to see in advance, and that is this decoupling notion, which, as I understand it, basically says the utilities will have the right to come in and make up their lost revenue that results from energy efficiency. And while some consumers maybe think that's a warm idea, mine are pretty hot about it. They're going to get hotter the more they find out about it. And I'd like to know, Mr. Chairman, at some point, who wrote these positions? Who was in the room when this was written in secret in this bill, since we never had a hearing and only learned about it as we went into markup? And I would hope at some point we'd know who are the lobbyists in the room, who were the legislators in the room. There sure seem to be a lot of folks that know about this, and how these provisions came to be, but there sure was no public hearing on the legislation. And I would say, too, our area in Oregon is known for its wind energy, and yet I've also seen the hour-by-hour energy production data that indicate that without some sort of peaking power, you can't balance out that load. And so gas does matter. Peaking power is going to be more important the more we go to non-firm power-based generators. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize I've run out of time.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Waxman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will explore how energy efficiency can meet our power needs, save us money, create jobs, and help slow global warming. Sometimes the simple solutions are overlooked. Energy efficiency is both the most affordable and fastest source of energy, even though many people don't think of it that way. As several of our witnesses point out in their written testimony, supplying a kilowatt through energy efficiency commonly costs half as much as buying a kilowatt from power generators. And because the cost of efficiency doesn't depend on oil or natural gas prices, efficiency reduces energy costs across the board and their volatility. Businesses across the country find that when they focus on energy efficiency, they can achieve significant cost savings, increasing profits to invest in expansion and new jobs. We'll hear about some of those experiences today. Homeowners find that they can make their houses more comfortable, lower their monthly utility bills, recoup their costs in a few years, and then watch their savings grow. Energy efficiency can also be deployed quickly compared to planning, siting, financing, permitting, and constructing a new power plant. And energy efficiency doesn't require any new or existing transmission capacity. That means efficiency can come online without waiting for transmission upgrades. Energy efficiency is a job engine. Because efficiency gains come in so many forms, efficiency creates opportunities for small businesses and big businesses throughout the economy. These range from construction and engineering jobs, retrofitting buildings, manufacture of efficient products such as next-generation windows and lighting. In building a strong, energy-efficient economy for America, we will help employ workers and give more jobs. For all these reasons, promoting energy efficiency must be a key element of climate legislation. We need substantial efficiency improvements to achieve large greenhouse gas emissions reductions at a reasonable cost. That's why the International Energy Agency concluded that more than half of the emissions reductions required by 2050 globally must come from improvements in energy efficiency. And we know that the experience is that the market by itself won't deliver all of the available low-cost efficiency savings. Homeowners, for example, may know that they could save money by buying a more efficient furnace, but many don't have the capital to make upfront investments. A landlord has a little incentive to weatherize an apartment when the tenant pays the utilities. Local, state, and federal policies have helped successfully address some of these and other barriers. Building codes and appliance standards are two types of policy that saved us huge amounts of energy and money in 1 year alone. For example, the savings from the efficient appliances that qualify for an Energy Star label save as much energy as required by 10 million American homes. You can see the results in a state such as California, which made energy efficiency a priority for decades. Since 1975, California's energy efficiency standards for buildings and appliances have saved residents and businesses $56 billion in energy costs and avoided the need to build 24 major power plants. And today we'll hear about Massachusetts' instructive experience in promoting energy efficiency. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses and their recommendations on how we design climate change legislation to best take advantage of the great benefits that energy efficiency offers us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from from Florida, Mr. Stearns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you and the ranking member for this hearing. My staff just was able to get a copy of the stimulus bill that we passed 11 days ago. So it was not humanly possible for us to read it, so we didn't know of all the intricacies that were in the bill. But for those homeowners that are installing those programmable thermostats, choosing Energy Star qualified appliances and the things that Mr. Waxman, the chairman, mentioned, additional attic installation and replacing old windows and doors with more efficient ones are all cost-effective renovations. Homeowners will be very pleased with these renovations, hoping that it'll make their house more modernized but also more cost-efficient. But because, my colleagues, of the decoupling provisions that was passed in the stimulus bill, which was supported by the majority party, they're going to be surprised. Customers will be forced to pay more energy after they've done all these things I mentioned. The resulting higher energy rates will be especially hard on those elderly people that spend their hard-earned dollars to fix up their homes because their incomes will be fixed, and these individuals will think, well, gee whiz, my energy costs are coming down, but lo and behold, they will not be coming down. Because of their complex structure of this energy utility bills, you hope to obtain achievable energy savings, but you won't see that. So I think that that's a very important part of this hearing. We want to promote energy-efficient technologies to reduce energy consumption, but ultimately I think the market has to play a spot here and not Congress in determining the preferred cost-effective technologies and effective and efficient building practices implemented. So I look forward to this hearing, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Vermont, Mr. Welsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Global warming, as we all know, is real, it's urgent, and it requires immediate action. And we cannot simply solve this crisis without increasing our energy efficiency. For a nation that consumes more than 25% of the world's energy, we simply can't afford anything less. In Vermont, actually, we've shown that it can be done. We have an energy efficiency utility. It's the nation's first statewide provider of energy efficiency services. And what this pioneering energy efficiency utility has demonstrated is really quite remarkable. First, efficiency works. Thanks to a commitment to investing in efficiency and the effectiveness of Efficiency Vermont, our statewide energy requirements were reduced by 1.74% in 2007. That exceeded the projected rate of load growth, making us the first state to ever turn load growth negative. People said it couldn't be done. Vermont has done it. Second, efficiency is cost effective. The cost of efficiency, as you pointed out, is about 2.6 cents per kilowatt hour compared to 10.7 cents per kilowatt hour for comparable energy. And Vermonters saved money. In 2007, there was an 88% increased savings over 2006. And third, energy efficiency is the path to reducing our carbon emissions. For 2007, Efficiency Vermont's efforts resulted in 661,000 fewer tons of CO2, 562 fewer tons of nitrogen oxides, and 1,100 fewer tons of sulfur dioxide entering the atmosphere. The goal of this committee is to reduce greenhouse gases by 80% by 2050. Many models suggest that energy efficiency can and must provide about 30% of that reduction. And to meet that target, we have to have as a goal about 3% reduction through efficiency each year. Now, Vermont had 2% last year. We can and we must begin to build the on-ramp towards a global warming solution. That on-ramp, simply put, is through efficiency. I yield back.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Hall.
Chairman, I pass on questions. I'll reserve my time.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look forward to the hearing that we're going to have and the testimony from our panel as we develop a comprehensive national energy policy. Efficiency and conservation are definitely part of what needs to be a comprehensive plan that also needs to include the development of our own natural resources to reduce our dependence on foreign oil, but also it's got to include a provision that encourages the development of alternative sources of energy, the renewables like wind and solar, which are not commercially viable enough today to replace the domestic energy that we have, but ultimately we can use that domestic energy as a bridge to get there. But I think if you look at what people are doing in this country, they are conserving. When gas was at $4 a gallon, people were cutting back dramatically, and they haven't changed their habits to a large degree, even though the price has dropped a significant amount. And so I think we need to encourage that conservation and the efficiencies that they've been yielding. One concern that some of us have is that, and we looked at the stimulus bill, and there was a provision, the decoupling provision, that in essence will penalize some people who go and do those things to make their homes more energy efficient. And I think we've got to be very careful in this committee and in the Congress as a whole that we don't penalize people who take those extra steps. If they want to spend what is a large capital outlay to put solar panels on their roof or to put that insulation in their attic, that they're not penalized by having to pay higher utility rates for doing those things. And so we shouldn't discourage good behavior by policy. And unfortunately, that was a provision that got into the stimulus bill. Hopefully, as people across the country realize that and senior citizens realize they may be paying more for energy because they didn't spend $40,000 to put those solar panels up, that's an issue we can revisit because we should avoid policies that discourage people from doing the right thing. And so hopefully we'll look at all of those and all parts of that three-legged stool of a comprehensive energy policy, efficiency and conservation being one of those three. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green.
Mr. Chairman, I'll waive opening statement and for additional questioning time.
Gentleman waives. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Barrow. Chair recognizes the gentlelady from California, Ms. Matsui.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for calling this hearing today. I'd also like to thank today's panelists. We all appreciate your time and expertise on all these matters. Buildings in our country are responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than any other sector. Heating, cooling, lighting our buildings, as well as powering our appliances requires vast amounts of energy. But thankfully, we currently possess the technology and knowledge needed to address nearly a quarter of our nation's carbon emissions. Improved energy efficiency will be an essential element of any climate change solution. my district of Sacramento, California, has been a leader in adopting green building practices. We have the first LEED Platinum certified office building in the country. We also have the second most LEED certified square footage of any city. We are also home to the California Energy Commission and have been a leader in energy efficiency for over 30 years. Under the leadership of Art Rosenfeld, who's really the godfather of energy efficiency in this country, our state energy commission has kept California's per capita energy consumption flat. Furthermore, federal programs such as Energy Star and Building America are expanding technologies and giving us concrete ways to combat climate change. Last Congress, I introduced a measure to assist homeowners across the country with energy efficiency landscaping practices. Even changing something as simple as how our buildings get sunlight can make a big difference in how much energy they consume. I look forward to working with my colleagues on this subcommittee to examine and promote energy efficiency while helping our constituents to do the same. By saving people money and reducing our carbon emissions, energy efficiency is truly a win-win proposition. Once again, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for highlighting this important issue, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Great. Gentlelady's time is completed. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank you for convening this hearing today on such an important issue. Like all of us, I believe that sound energy efficiency measures will certainly help decrease the amount of greenhouse gas emission in our atmosphere. They will also encourage our country to strengthen our energy security and end our dependence on foreign energy resources. However, if energy efficiency matters are not implemented in a cost-effective manner, they will harm our economy. In the recently passed stimulus bill, as has been noted, that we just were able to get a copy of, a potentially very harmful provision was included, decoupling. Decoupling, the separating of utility rates from the amount of electricity or natural gas that utilities sell, will inevitably harm our already damaged economy and those least able to withstand more economic pressure, regular Americans who are struggling to make ends meet during this recession. Under stimulus, if a state accepts federal energy efficiency grants, they will have to guarantee that utilities recover their lost revenue when consumers don't use as much electricity. And this forces the consumer, the ratepayer, to keep utilities solvent, even if their own energy use decreases. With an anticipated decline in energy use in 2009, this policy will force customers to pay more money for less energy, and the government essentially would be punishing people for conserving energy. I believe we must instead create incentives for energy conservation and reward consumers when they save energy, not force them to pay artificially higher utility rates. Utilities have a legitimate concern that increased efficiency will cost them revenue. But if we learned anything from the mortgage crunch, it's that government policies that try to alter or ignore the fundamental laws of economics create more problems than they solve. Penalizing consumers for using less energy doesn't seem like the right solution. And I hope we can all work together and come up with a better alternative. I look forward to hearing the witnesses today, and thank you, and yield back.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California, Ms. Capps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this very important hearing to explore the vital role energy efficiency will play in reducing greenhouse gases and achieving our climate change objectives. I remember so well the image of one of the CEOs of the big oil companies when the gasoline prices were skyrocketing, being challenged, what are we going to do about these high prices? He said, I have one word for you, efficiency. And it holds true in our topic here today as well. I thank our esteemed witnesses for their testimony on this very important matter. Energy efficiency is a win-win. By reducing consumption of energy, we save money, and we also cut greenhouse gases. And the chairman of our full committee, as well as my neighbor from Sacramento, Doris Matsui, have highlighted what has been achieved in California, my state as well, a longtime leader among other states in energy efficiency. We use less energy per capita than any other state in the nation. And as the chairman said, in 1995, since 1975 rather, per capita energy consumption in California has held steady. while in the U.S. as a whole it has grown by 50%. Furthermore, by implementing green energy policies that lower consumption and cut greenhouse gases, we've managed to spend less. On average, California families now spend $800 a year less on energy than they would have without the efficiency advancements of the last 3 decades. We have managed to cut also per capita carbon dioxide emissions by 30% over the last 30 years. These successes have come as a result of strong standards combined with innovative regulations and innovative achievements. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the leadership of this committee and of our administration for setting some high goals. And as we move forward to craft climate legislation, consider the complementary policies necessary to reduce greenhouse gases. I hope we will recognize some groundbreaking work that is already occurring in California, Massachusetts, some other places, and that will build smart climate policy on their achievements, on the achievements that have been already accomplished in local communities. Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Okay, gentlelady's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Burgess.
I thank the chairman for the recognition. Thank you for holding this hearing. Looking forward to hearing from our panel of witnesses today. Energy efficiency is exactly the type of issue where we can work together on this committee despite our clear differences on carbon control regimes. Energy efficiency is the type of win-win scenario that people seek in public policy decisions before Congress. But we need to ensure that the consumers of electricity receive the cost savings from energy efficiency and that this does not accrue to the electric utilities. The incentive to implement energy efficiency technology must provide direct benefits to the end users who ultimately pay the rates, the families, the small businesses, and the manufacturers. Unfortunately, the revenue decoupling portion in the economic stimulus bill redirected these benefits to the utilities so that consumers pay the same price no matter how much energy they consume or save. I hope that this committee can work together to correct this provision and redirect the benefits of energy efficiency back to rate payers. And this is not just a hypothetical concern with me, Mr. Chairman. A few years ago, my wife and I found ourselves building a new home. And the number of things that were available off the shelf for energy efficiency really made an impression upon me. We already heard from a member on the other side, things like siting your house correctly to take advantage of passive solar heating if you're in a climate that where that will be a benefit. The ultra-high efficiency air conditioners that are available nowadays, foam insulation in the walls, low-E glass, the tankless water heater, the efficient attic system. Our electric utility rates dropped 1/2 the summer we moved into this house, which was the same square footage as the house we had occupied the previous summer. Our natural gas consumption similarly declined by about 1/2, demonstrating the powerful effect of energy efficiency. Again, this is an area where we can all agree that that improvements can be made. I want to be certain, though, that the decisions we make in this committee do not increase the cost of development and increase the cost of manufacturing, because the economy right now cannot tolerate that type of convulsion. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez. Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Wisconsin, Ms. Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the past 2 years, this subcommittee has heard about emerging technologies, necessary investments in research, and critical infrastructure that must be developed if we are to reduce our energy use and lower our greenhouse gas emissions. We have focused on carbon sequestration, cellulosic ethanol, and plug-in hybrid vehicles as solutions to our energy and climate change crises. These are important discussions to have, but in looking toward the future, we cannot lose sight of the significant energy savings that are currently available to us. Today, by having a thorough discussion of energy efficiency opportunities, we draw attention to low-cost strategies that can be used to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I'm particularly interested in how the industrial sector can optimize its energy use. In December, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory released a report saying that waste energy recovery is, I quote, one of the most promising options in the U.S. energy efficiency portfolio. I am pleased with a number of the provisions included in the Energy Independence and Security Act that encourage waste heat recovery, and I look forward to hearing about other opportunities that we may be able to make available. Finally, I want to welcome all of our witnesses here today, but one in particular. Mr. Ian Campbell is here representing Johnson Controls, which is headquartered just outside my district in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Johnson Controls is a leader in innovation, building batteries for the next generation of plug-in hybrid vehicles and addressing efficiency in buildings to help manage energy costs, reduce environmental impacts, and improve productivity and competitiveness. But I would add that Johnson Controls doesn't just talk the talk. Rather, they have taken significant steps to improve their own efficiencies and reduce their own carbon footprint. And through it all, they've continued growing. I thank you for your company's commitment to environmental stewardship and corporate responsibility, and welcome your testimony as well as the testimony of the entire panel that we're very grateful to have before us today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Blum.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'll submit a statement later for the record.
Great. Then that completes all opening statements by the members.